Hello everybody and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Shellie Geigle with J&S Hobbies and Crafts, and I have another tutorial for you. This is an 8x8 folio with a 1-inch spine, and the paper I used was the Stamperia Circle of Love. And I love this because it's pet themed. Cats and dogs, there's rabbits, and other things that you can add to this. Now also, this would be good for maybe a younger child's album because of the pets and the dogs, the puppies and kittens. But I'm going to take you around this. Very cute. And when I saw this paper, I just fell in love because it's bright, it's cheery, it's happy. So this opens up, and right here we have a place to slide a photo. So when this is shut, that is behind, and if you're worried about scratching it, you can always get a piece of plastic or the acetate clear and glue it down over your photograph to preserve it better. So this opens up, and we have some large fold outs here. This one up front has the pocket, and this is a little tuck area back behind her. And I just did some left from the leftover paper, my picture mats. Now picture mats we don't do together, and the reason why is because everyone has their own size photographs that they like to do. So this now will open up. Oh, let me get you back in frame. And on the inside here, you have a place just to place a photograph, or you can make a mat and tuck it back behind the little kitten in the boots. And that's all I did for an extra photograph. Here is another large fold out, and this is a great place just to place your photograph. This will fold out, and we have another big fold out here. Same thing, so the kitten and the boots are on this side, and here's my picture mat. So this is what it looks like, all spread out. Very colorful and cheerful. These are just little fold outs, and you can stick a photograph just right on top of this, wherever you would like to go with it, or just leave it. You open it up, and there's another space right here for photographs. Back here is a pocket, and I just placed a bunch in here, picture mats. Moving on over here, we have, it's so cute. I just love this kitten, the way its eyes are. He's just got those crazy eyes. Anyway, this is not a tuck area. It was just, we glued these down, and we didn't leave it as a tuck because when this folds in, I didn't want any of the edges to get caught up over on this panel's fussy cutting. Just very cute. You open it up, and we got places here and here for photographs. Here I have a large tuck to place a photograph. This comes up, and this comes down. So I'm going to start up here. Up here is just a very large pocket, and I've got some picture mats in there. And down here is a side pocket, and I've got about 3 in there, I believe. I have a couple here that will accommodate a nice 4x6, I believe. I like to be able to see the pattern paper around the edges of my pictures. And then I have a smaller one to accommodate a smaller size photograph. That can all fit in there. And we have a little kitty there. Very cute. Now, what we have over here is a couple flips. You can place a photo here and here. And then on the back side, you have room. And on the back side of this, and then you have this big open spot. So that is what we will be making today. That is our 8x8 folio. using the Stamperia Circle of Love. And you have tons of room in there to get a little more pictures in than I did. So let's move on to the materials list. Materials list. Well, there's not a whole lot to this folio, but the main ingredients is the Circle of Love 12 by 12 paper pack by Stamperia. And this has 22 single-sided sheets, and they're just absolutely cute. Now, the only thing that this doesn't have for us is a bunch of cut-aparts or panels, and that's okay. We're going to get creative, and I see lots of things that can be cut out here as well as in the paper. So we'll manage just fine without that. So one pack of this, 12 by 12. We're going to need one pack of the American Crafts 12 by 12 white cardstock, and it's 80 pound. And this is a good weight for these folios. There is no chipboard. You're going to need some magnets, and we're going to need actually 3 pairs of magnets. So you'll have leftover, let's see, 1, 2, 3, you'll have 6 magnets left over in the pack for another project. 1/4-inch score tape, some glue, and I like the Art Glitter Dries Clear glue, and also you'll want that metal tip, and some stickles. Now, diamond stickles, stardust, something sparkly, because that's going to help us with some of our images. That's, as far as materials, that's it. Equipment, you're going to want a scoring board, you're going to want a paper cutter, a ruler, your scissors, eraser, pencil, and your bone folder or scoring tool. Let's get started in assembling the base of the folio. And oh, don't forget to download the free PDF of the materials list, which also has your pre-cutting guide for all your white cardstock. So you can get prepared like I am, and that way we can jump right on in. We're on to folio base assembly. So you'll notice if you are new to my tutorials is that on the pre-cutting guide I have all of our pre-cuts in sections. So you will notice under folio base the instructions were to cut 2 pieces that were 8 by 12 and to lightly in pencil write folio base. So there's 2 of these. What we're going to do right now is seam these together, and then we're going to score it together. So for me, I like to use the cutting bar, the cutting guide here, when I place my score tape to help keep these straight. So let's grab our 1/4-inch score tape. All we're going to do is come over to one side, and we have this lane, so we are 12 inches across, and we're going to lay this score tape right along the edge without going over. Also, once we lay score tape or even our glue within this tutorial, you're definitely going to want to use your tool and burnish. And all that does is it's going to get the air out from under that adhesive. It's going to get that adhesive contact with your paper so it stays down. The craft knife is a wonderful little tool for getting the little backing up off that score tape. Okay, so I have this placed up against my bar, and here's my other piece. We are 12 inches across, and I think you can see this, but I'm just going to push that up against the bar too, and I'm going to carefully overlap that 1/4-inch score tape. And that should keep me fairly straight there. And then I'm going to burnish. It's time to get our ruler out and our pencil. We're going to do some scoring here. And we're going to mark in pencil first because it's easier that way. And then all we have to do is line up our pencil mark with one of the grooves on our scoring board. So we are going to measure over to 4 inches, and I'm going to keep my ruler up towards the top edge. And I have this laid out. And we're going to make a little mark at the 4-inch mark, lightly in pencil. Then we're going to line this up, and then from that mark, we're going to measure over 1 1/8. We'll make a pencil mark. Now from that last mark, we'll put our ruler up. And by the way, the reason why I'm doing it like this is because this is such a long sheet. It's really hard to give you the measurements because we'll be off the scoring board. Our scoring board's only 12 inches wide. Okay, so from that last score line, what we're going to do is we're going to come over, measure over to 8 inches, and make a pencil mark. From that pencil line, we're going to come over and measure over 1 inch. From that line, we're going to measure over 8 inches. Let's grab our scoring board. So on each one of those notches, what you're going to do is you're going to line that up with one of the notches. It doesn't matter where you're doing it. You can be over here. Just line up that pencil line with one of your notches, and you're going to score. And try to be very accurate with your scoring, because it does matter. Okay, we can set this off to the side, and I am going to erase any pencil marks now. Keep your ruler handy so I can get us situated on which way we need this to lay now. All right, we're going to flip this around to where, from the edge of this, 4 inches. So this 4 inches is going to lay to the right at all times. So let's just start folding on those score lines. Now when you're folding, make sure that this lines up with your other paper. If you're a little off, you can maneuver it to fit. So we want it all to be flush. And then I had a little one. We had just a little one over here. Okay, so we're going to label this really quick. And again, your short piece is to the left. What I want you to do is just fold that little short piece over, and I want you to put pocket. And P1. Pocket. P1 means panel 1. Okay? Right here, we're going to put P1. That means panel 1. Right in here, we have a 1-inch spacing. We have a score line here and here. I want you to put inside spine in between those. This next section, we're going to go P2. That means panel 2. I'm getting crazy with my writing. We have another 2 score lines, our spacing, and we're going to write inside spine. Over here, we have that 4-inch. We're just going to put P3, and then I want you to just draw 2 circles. That's going to remind us that this is our magnetic closure, because what's going to happen is when when we get into panel 1, this will get glued down to our decorative paper, but it's going to fold in like this. And see this? It's going to overlap and clasp. All right, we have this part done. We are going to set a couple magnets. So let's, for now, we're just going to need 4 magnets. The third set will come into play as soon as we get to decorating the outside of the cover. We can set that one then. So right now, grab 2 minuses and 2 plus. We're going to open this up. Now this is just a guide, but this is a great place to place them. And I will give you some measurements here if you need them. So you can measure in about 1 3/8 and come down maybe a couple inches from the top. Come on, you. And you can just place one of your magnets. And that was a plus. One of your minuses, just stick right up on top there. Let's grab another plus. And again, just come in maybe 1 3/8, come up 2 inches from the bottom, place that, and place that. Now, what we're going to do is remove the backing off one of those magnets. Now remember, we have that P1 pocket. That has to come back behind, tuck right on in. So I want you to stand this up, and of course you have that tucked in. You see this corner? Well, it's going to tuck into the corner over here. Not this one, this one. And the easiest way is just to grab it and stick it in that corner and make sure that this lines up with this, which it should, and pull it over and press. Now what you can do is just kind of pull it off to the side. Rather than pulling straight up, your magnet's probably going to tear off. So just kind of carefully just kind of move this panel up to release that. Now this one's easy. It should help. It should fall right in line for us. But I like to just turn it upside down. Here's the other half, and I'm going to stick it right in that corner. The bottom one's going to grab for me, and this should come even now. Press. I'm going to put it back to the way it's supposed to be now. 4-inch side, and I'm just going to shimmy this up a little. And now we've set our magnets. So on this page, I want you to put front of folio. You can close that one up, and we're going to write front closure. So front closure, that's the 4-inch side. I'm going to shimmy this up a little bit, front of folio. And what I'm going to do is just open this all the way up so I don't see the inside. The inside's down. In between these two score lines here, we're going to put outside spine. In between here, we're going to put back. In between these, we're going to put outside spine. And paper will cover that. So I'm going to bring this up. So with it all done like that, so now when we close that up, we have our front closure ends up over here, front, outside spine, and the back. We are now moving on to decorating the outside of our folio. We're on the decorating the outside of our folio. We had one pre-cut, It was 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. We called it a picture mat. That's it. There's no scoring. So the first thing I want us to do is get into the paper, and I'm going to set this aside. And we're not going to glue anything down right away. We're going to have a certain order to how we glue things down because it's needed. If you're new to my tutorials, and we're going to get after this first page. If you're new to my tutorials, one thing I do is pretty much I'm catering to this paper, teaching this, because that's what I'm using. But also, when I tell you to measure, I try to stay consistent. I don't have you measure up, down, all around. I'll start over here and say measure over this way, and then cut. Now, if I need to get a special cut, like this for instance, turning it sideways, now we're still going to start off to the left side, we're going to measure over. Okay, and then cut. And the reason behind my madness is because it gets really confusing if I'm having you cut up, down, all around. The next thing is after you've made a cut, like what we're going to do here, you will want to take whatever is cut off and place in a reserve pile. That's your scrap pile, because we're going to get back after those. So here is our first piece, and I'm going to several times show you and cut along with you. In your paper pack, you have this. Now this is single-sided, so it's always going to be white. We are going to turn it sideways, looking at it like this. Now we're going to measure over 7 3/4 and cut. So my cutting blade is right here. So I'm going to measure over 7 3/4 and I'm going to cut. We will be needing this, but for now set it off to the side. And this is what we have. Our next cut, we're going to measure over 7 3/4 and cut. 7 3/4, cut. This piece here we're going to use. Set this one off to the side because we want this. This piece, looking at it like this, we're going to measure over 3 3/4 and cut. So we're making good use of our stuff. This piece is very small. Do keep it. We want it. Any small slivers, anything, we're going to put in our reserves. So we have that. So far we have a front cover, our front closure, and now we're going to get after some other pieces. In your paper pack, you will find this pretty print. Again, there's nothing on the back. What we're going to do with this is we're just going to turn it sideways. We're going to measure over 7 3/4 and cut. We're going to stick this in reserves. Now, looking at it like this, we're going to measure over 7 3/4 and cut again. We'll set this off to the side with our other cuts. This piece we're going to use. Our first cut, we're going to measure over 7/8 and cut. So on mine, I have a 1-inch mark here, but there's nothing else. So if you have that same thing, what you'll want to do is just use your ruler, make a little pencil mark where 7/8 is, and then cut. So 7/8. That looks straight. And it's already the correct length of 7 3/4. So that one's done. We're going to do another cut. We're going to measure over 1 inch and cut. So 1 inch. Oops. So we have all of our pieces pretty much, other than something else. Put that in your reserves. I'm going to set this off to the side. The first thing that I would like us to do is we're going to open this up. Come on, you. See, they're very strong magnets. There we go. and we're just going to turn it over and lay it out. Your little flap under here, which is your P1 pocket, make sure that stays tucked under. This is going to be the back of our folio piece. So we're just going to, in between that score line and this one, we're going to be gluing that down. I like to use score tape for the outside of my folio on my decorated paper. You can use glue. Just make sure you get those edges really good so nothing snags. I'm going to use my score tape. And I'm going to, all I'm doing right now, if you're using the score tape too, is I'm going to go around the back of this like a picture frame to start. So I know I'm getting my corners and my edges really good. I don't have to worry about any snagging or anything lifting up there. For the inside, I'll just be using glue. Now that I have that, I'm going to go one down the middle. And I don't want any puckering. I think I'll go 2 on each side, just to be safe. If you'd like to do 1 on each side and then scribble a little glue in between, you can do that. Now before I do anything, I'm going to check to make sure I don't have any score tape peeking over the edge, because you don't want that. If we're going to take the time to make this, we want to be able to have something clean looking. Over time, if you have that adhesive hanging over, dust will collect on it and make it look dirty, especially against the white. So we're going to burnish down the score tape really good. Now because this is a big piece, sometimes after you remove the score tape backing, if you want to drizzle a little glue around here, so if you start here you can still maneuver without it catching, so you can get it straight on in there, you can do that. The idea is you can see your score line here and here. Notice that when you place it, it's going to give you a white little border before you hit the score lines, if you're placing this in the center. You're also going to get that down here and here, and I think that looks really good. It's our little border. So I'm going to remove the score tape backing and I'm going to place mine. And I'm going to try and keep my head out of the video. So I'm going to do my best here, placing it, and then I'm going to burnish down, especially get those corners and the edges really good. Now while we have this laid out, you have 2 strips. One is 7/8. That one is going to place right there. The other one is 1 inch. And that will place right here. The reason why they're different sizes is because over by the front closure, we're actually 1 1/8 between those score lines, and then we are about 1 inch over here, because we had to allow a little bit of extra to get that front closure to come up and over and have it not bulk out on us from being too tight. So I'm going to do the same thing with my score tape, and I'm going to get these down. And I'm going to try and line up the bottom of this with the bottom of my sheet over here. But make sure you center that in between the score lines as best you can. But again, dabbing a little glue sometimes helps. I'm going to get the score tape on this one, and then I'm going to lay it. If you're new to using score tape, one of the biggest things I can tell you is it's almost impossible to keep your fingers out of it. If you have lotion on your skin, wash your hands, soap and water, dry them off to get all the oils and everything off your skin before handling score tape. We have this piece right here, and it's the one that's going to fit nicely. And we will center that, and we will place it right there. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to go around the edges like a picture frame. Then I'm going to go one down the middle and one on either side of that. Then I will inspect my paper to make sure I don't have any overhang peeking over of my score tape. Then I'll give it a good burnishing. And again, I'm just going to do my best at trying to get this on straight. And then I'll burnish. Okay, let's just flip this all the way over and fold in the little P1, come over here, and all I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull this, flatten this out. We're going to set this off to the side for just a moment. You should have this in your reserves. Now, we're going to fussy cut out and around this piece. We're also going to fussy cut out the butterflies. So I'm going to cut out the butterflies. So I know that that's one piece. And then I'll come over here and just kind of make my life easier by cutting off this excess. Now this excess I'm going to stick in my reserves. So what I'm going to do is I am going to fussy cut first, and then I'm going to bring this up and show you what mine looks like. Now one thing I'm going to tell you is that we don't have enough room on the cover for all of this. Notice that I'm coming up probably 1/4 inch away from the dog ear, and I'm just going to go straight up and then continue cutting this out. And again, I will show you when it's complete. I have mine cut out, and if you would like to pause the video so you can have this up in front of you, then do so that you can get close to that. Once you have that, because it's so thin, we are going to back it with white cardstock. Some of our 80-pound cardstock. We'll glue this down to the white cardstock. Then we're going to cut out and around this, leaving a little bit of a white border. And I will, once I get mine done, I will bring it up so you can see if you're not understanding or you just want to see how I did. I'm not a good fussy cutter. You do not have to be. The white border, the little thin white border around your piece is going to actually help you out. It'll really clean up the look, make it stand out, but also in this case we need to back this to make it stronger because it's going to have a magnet on the back. So once you get it down, let your glue dry a little. Get any glue that seems to be smearing out from under, and then proceed to cut out and around. And again, I will show you mine in just a moment as soon as my glue dries a little bit more. Here is mine after I've cut out and around it. So what we're going to do first is we're actually going to glue this down. Now, make sure, close this up, close your piece up, make sure it's closed. Bring this over to the side and put it up. You should have some room there. You'll want to scoot this in a little so it's not right on your hinge. Up off the bottom, so he's up off the bottom. You just want to make sure that none of this is on your opening and closing. So I'm going to shimmy mine over. If you need to cut yours down, cut it down over here. Okay, you got a white border here, so if you need to cut off some of your white cuttings, do so. But all we're doing right now is finding our place. And I do have stuff coming down at the bottom, so I just want to make sure that these leaves don't go over the bottom of this, because then it's not going to stand up very nicely for me. Okay, once you have it, I want you to lightly take your pencil. See this little guy's head? I want you to just kind of draw around it. It's going to be easier for you if you draw around this so you can see what you're doing when placing glue. I think I got it. So that is going to help me. That's all I did. So now when I place the glue, I know where to put him. And you're going to want a scratch piece of cardstock, and I'm just going to slide that back behind. You're going to want to get to the edge of your piece, and when place that back where it's supposed to be, maneuver it. You may want to put down here a little pencil line so you know how far to come down with your glue. So I'm just going to kind of follow this around, and I'll wipe up any excess, and I'm going to place this. Trying to keep my head out of the video. Okay, now that you have your spot, I want you to open this up completely. So now you can burnish. And I knew we wouldn't get away without my fur babies barking. All right, check the back side. Make sure that there's no glue seeping through here. We're going to close this back up. And now, right behind his head, we are going to place that other set of magnets. And that's just going to help us keep this down. Actually, it would be more about right here. It's going to help keep this down so it does not snag on you. So we'll be done now with the magnets. So we're going to carefully do that. I have not cut out my butterflies just yet, by the way. So you don't want to be right up on the edge, but just come over to where there's something there. We're going to place this now, and we're going to set this magnet. So you can see. Let these catch first, then let that come over and press. Oh, how cute is that? Okay, so carefully, like I said, don't pull up. Kind of shift it up a little, get that detached, because these magnets are so strong. And we'll do the same there until we can get our paper down. Then it's less likely to do anything. So I'm just going to flatten this out. I'm at the front now. And I am going to get my score tape on there, just like I did before. And I'm going to place that down. Just like that. So score tape around the outside like a picture frame, 1 down the middle and 2 on either side of that. And we still have our butterflies, and we will get to that in just a moment. And matter of fact, all we're going to do with the butterflies is we're going to cut out and around them. We're going to place them down to some white cardstock, and we're going to cut around those too. So they'll stick out just a little bit better for us. That looks good. I'm going to burnish and remove this, and you may want to dab some glue on your magnets, just a little bit. Okay, and I have that flattened out so I can see where the bottom of that is, and I'm going to center it between this and that score line. As best I can, anyway. Alright, I'm a little off, but that's okay. Not much. I'm going to burnish that. Be careful around your magnets so you don't tear your paper before you get it burnished down. Okay, let's check it out. Don't worry about this for now. Very cute. And if you're bowing down, that's okay. Until we get the insides in, you will. What do you think? That's really cute. We have a picture mat to get down. So what's going to happen is we'll be ending up putting that over there. It'll sit there, and I think it'll look good. So let's get that open. We'll flatten that out. And we're just going to come probably about a 1/2 inch in from the side, 1/2 inch from there. And I'm just going to use glue for this. And then we're going to cut some decorative paper to go on top of it. That'll look really nice. And then we'll have our white picture border. Uh-oh, I got something on here. Hopefully it's just a little smudge of pencil. Yeah. So about a 1/2 inch in, 1/2 inch from there. I don't want to get my head in the picture, but I think I got that on pretty straight. It's okay if it's a little off. This is my pet album, and I'm going to love it no matter. In your paper pack, you will find this print. What we're going to do with this is we're going to turn it upside down. Flower is down here. This is down here. We're going to measure over 4 inches and cut, and that should catch a little bit of our green leaf there. So I'm going to drag this out and do some cutting with you. And again, we still have our butterflies to tend to, but we have to get this done first. So 4 inches. We have just a little bit there. And we'll cut. We're going to put this in our reserves. It's a wonderful piece. Now, with the little leaf over here, we're going to measure over 5 1/4 inches and cut. So 5 1/4, and we'll cut. And we'll put that in reserves. Let's see how this looks here. If you place that, I'm going to squash that down. If you place that in there with the leaf up here, it'll give you a nice white border. And I'm going to use glue for this. Make sure I get those edges really good. And we're going to center it right on in there. Even borders all the way around. There we go. Okay, we can just push that back. We can flop that over. That looks really good. Let's grab our butterflies. We'll cut out and around each one. Now, I realize this one, the wing, is partially cut off. All you have to do for that is just round it as best you can when you're cutting. Okay? Anyway, we'll cut out and around each one of these, and then we're going to glue it down to the white cardstock, and we'll cut around, leaving a little bit of a white border. And I'll show you mine when I am done. So I have my butterflies cut out, and that's where my picture's going to go. I think I'm going to just glue one down right there, right up and over there to give it a little color. Anywhere. For this little guy, I think I'm going to go right up here. Now when I glue this down, I'm going to leave this part with no glue so I can tuck my photo back behind. So for instance, let me show you what I'm going to do here. Just kind of rotate this. Hopefully I got this right. Maybe come down just a little bit. Just make sure you're not over your edge. But here's a photograph, and I want to be able to still tuck it. Of course, when I place the photograph, just lay it down. I can still center it in there, and the wing can come over. Of course, centering it. And I have a cute little picture there if I want it. Or nothing at all. Just up to you how you want to do it. We are done with decorating the outside. It looks good. And we are now on to panel 1, P1. We are on panel 1, and we do have some pre-cuts. So let's go over those really quick and verify our cuts. We had 2 pieces that were 8 by 8.5, and we called one a left spine hinge and one a right spine hinge. On each one of these, what we did was we laid this on our scoring board, so we were 8.5 inches across. We scored at a 1/2 inch and 1 inch. Our next pre-cut, we had 2 pieces that were 5 by 8. We called them a small fold out. And on each one, what we did was we laid them across our scoring board. We are 5 inches across. We scored at a 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch on each one of these. And P1 just means panel 1. It's to help keep us organized. Next, we had a 4 by 8 3/8 piece, and we called it a pocket. What we first did was we laid this so we were 4 inches across. We scored it at a 1/2 inch. It then said to turn it so you are 8 3/8 across, score at a 1/2 inch, and 7 7/8. Our last pre-cut was 4 by 8 1/4. We called it a top pocket. We laid this on our scoring board. We're 4 inches across. We scored it at a 1/2 inch. We then turned it, so now we are 8 1/4 across. We scored it at a 1/2 inch and 7 3/4. All right, let's begin. Now, we're going to need to work directly in our folio for this. So we're going to open this up. And the first 2 that we are going to need is your 8 by 8.5 left and right hinge. So let's just start by folding on those score lines. Let's start with the one left spine hinge. So you're going to want to have your little hinge off to the left. And you will see you have your 1/2 inch spacing here, and then of course we have this. So I'm going to show you first, and then we're going to do it together. But we do have this little flap pulled in, and we are not ready to do anything with that. But what we are going to do is on this, we're going to apply our glue. We're going to pinch it so that the glue part is down. We'll push this down, and all we're going to do is line this up right with the side of that and make sure that this is straight with the top and bottom. So let's do that really quick. And until we get our paper down and get this down, it's going to be a little floppy. So we'll just get this little hinge on. So I've got it flattened back behind. I'm going to push this down because it goes right on top of it and get that lined up, top and bottom, without going over the side. Make sure I'm straight. I think that's pretty good. And we're going to burnish. We'll open it up and see what I mean? It's going to flop like that for us until we get that tacked down. And we'll burnish that. Okay, we need our right spine hinge. And all we're going to do is we're going to fold on those score lines. Where'd my other little tool go? There it is. And we're going to do the same exact thing, except, and I want to bring this up so you can see, our hinge is going to be to the right. Where we are going to place it, you see we have our inside spine. We have one score line right here and one here. When we place this one, it's going to go, here's your left side of that score line and the right. We're going to go right on in next to that score line. And this is real floppy right now, so I'm going to demonstrate this and then I'm going to show you. So you don't want to get it on that score line. I think I got enough glue there. So I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. And I hate zooming in, I really do, because I forget and I get out of frame. But we're going to maneuver this. It's very hard to see. So I think what I'm going to do is, here's our spine. I'm going to put a mark right on that score lines. So we're not putting anything in there. It's going to go right here. So I've got that. I'm going to push it back behind and I'm going to line it up to where I have a little, about a 1/16 of spacing away from that hinge. And I want to make sure that I line this up with the top and bottom. And you can just push this out of the way so you can get it on straight. Just make sure you're not going over. And I think I got that on pretty good. And we will burnish. And then what we can do is push back against that. Here we go. I'm going to back up now before I forget. So you can see I still have my spine hinge here, and this can still come over. So I didn't get it on the inside spine, it's just to the left of that line. And then once we get everything in there, then it'll be more apt to going how we want. But it should sit up like that. So let's open that back up. The next two pieces that we want are the 5x8 small fold out. And we're going to fold on those score lines. We're going to have a hinge off to the left and a hinge off to the right when we place this. Okay, so we're going to start with the one with the hinge off to the left. It's the same idea. On that, you have an inside score line and an outside. On the outside one, we're going to press and we're going to get that back behind. I'm going to show you first before we do it. Here's that little P1 pocket that wants to flip up on us until we get it tacked down. But we're going to apply our glue. Here's our fold out. Here is our spacing for our fold out. See, right here. We're going to not put it on this. This, once again, is going to come down and we're going to be right next to the inside score line. So it's going to sit right on top of that pocket once again. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to fold it back. There's that outside score line of our flip. Here's the inside score line of the flip. So just to the right, we're going to put about a 1/16 of an inch away from that score line, and we're going to make sure that this lines up with the bottom of our piece and the top. And we're going to just press that down, and then we can open it up and we can burnish. Okay, so don't worry about this little thing here. We'll take care of that in just a bit. So this is the same idea. So our hinge is going to be off to the right. Outside score line, we're going to press, we're going to apply our glue, and you will see that there are 2 score lines on the other side of this right spine hem. There's one on the outside and the inside. On the inside one, we're going to move just about a 1/16 of an inch away to the left of that inner score line. So once again, we're going to line that up with the bottom of our piece. Make sure it's straight. And we're going to burnish that down really good. We'll wipe up any glue that wants to seep out on us. So now we have set our stuff. Our pockets will come into play in just a bit. We're going to open this up to where we can see the P1 panel. This is going to be our base sheet. In your paper pack, you will find this print. It's quite lovely. We're just going to turn it this way. We're going to measure over 7 3/4 and cut. This is what you should have. Now we're going to measure over 7 1/2 inches and cut. This piece here should fit in between. If you open up your little P1 pocket that we have that flip, it should fit in between this score line and the inner score line of this. And we're just going to glue that down. And I'm just going to use glue for this. And then make sure that I burnish really well. So this part's going to be at the top, and we will center that top and bottom, and we will burnish. Now what we're going to do with this is we're going to bring over this and we're going to add glue. We're going to add a good line of glue down here and up here. This is kind of like a little tuck pocket, but just make sure you get enough to hold it down. And we're going to burnish that, because we do have a pocket that's actually going to sit on top of this. So you can still slide up here, but you can also get in like that. And we'll wipe up any glue. Just make sure you burnish this down because your fold outs are sitting right on top of that. I think we're going to have a little bit of color on this page. Before I set the color for the pocket over here, we're going to put down our paper here and here on the inside. This is what's sitting in your reserves. This is what was cut off of this. You have this piece here, and it is 4 1/2 by 7 3/4. So it's perfect this way. What we're going to do is we're going to measure over 4 inches and cut. If you were to lay that down on this inside little fold out, it should fit perfectly, just like that. And we're going to glue that down. So lots of places to put our photos. There we go. This piece here, it's 12 inches long and probably about the same, 4 1/4 or so. We're going to measure over 7 3/4 and cut. And that is what you should have. We'll measure over 4 inches and cut. We're going to apply glue, and we're going to place that centered in there. Of course, we have a nice white border, and we'll burnish that down. And then I want to get some other colors in. In your reserves, you will find this print. It is 12 inches wide, and we are about 8 inches this way. The first thing that we want to do is we're just going to measure over 1 1/8 and cut. Next, what we're going to do is turn it sideways. We'll measure over 7 3/4 and cut. Let's get our glue out. And right here on the P1 pocket, don't get on your hinge. We're just going to lay it right in the middle there. And you're going to have a white lip over here. The next one that we are going to want to get after is the 4 by 8 3/8. And on these pockets, you will notice we have a score line here. Whoops. And we have a score line here and one across the bottom. In the corner, you will see it kind of makes a square. We're going to cut out that square on each side. We're going to start folding on those score lines, and we're going to fold these one way to the back. So once you have this all towards the back, you'll fold in the sides. Down here, you just want to get a little bit of glue down in the corners, just like that, and then you're going to fold that up. So the glue is catching on the sides there. We'll glue it down. We have enough spacing. So I'm gluing it down on top of the decorated paper at the bottom, so it just covers. Probably be able to see some of your paper over there, and that's fine. Just make sure you burnish it down really good. So what that's going to give us is a nice large pocket, but you also have a place where you can tuck in there with some of the smaller stuff. So grab this back out of your reserves. We're going to turn it sideways. We're going to measure over 3 3/8 and cut. This is what you should have. Measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut. This piece should now fit. If you bring it down to your pocket, kind of center it side to side, you'll get a little bit of a white border, but most importantly, you have that white little lip up there. And we're going to glue this down. In your paper pack, you will have this print. We're going to be using this for a lot of our cut-aparts. I think it's great. So one thing is we're going to get after this piece, but when you do that, just try to keep everything intact so that we don't have little pieces of this off in our reserves. It's just easier to find things. So I'm just going to make my way around this. Just like that. So that way everything's intact. He is going to look adorable, or she. We're going to cut out and around our piece. Then we're going to back it to some white cardstock. And I will show you mine as soon as I'm done cutting this out. Here's mine. And now what I'm going to do is grab some of my scrap cardstock. I'm going to apply glue, I'll glue it down, and then I'm going to cut out and around, leaving a little bit of a white border. So that is what mine looks like with the white border. And what we're going to do is we're just going to glue this down. And when we glue this down, I am going to tack down this piece and all through here, but I'll leave it so I can still tuck maybe a tag or something behind. So up here, I know I need to get that. And down the side, across the bottom. We'll see how that looks. And make sure that this does not touch that score line or get near that. And if you feel you need to add a little more glue in places, go ahead. So that's super cute. Let's close that up, and we are going to get fur here. In your paper pack, you will have this print. And we'll hold it here so we have some flowers up. We're going to measure over 4 inches and cut. So you have that piece. Next, what we're going to do is look at it like this. We will measure over 4 inches and cut. So these are the pieces that we have, and we're going to double them up. So we're going to have some of the flowers on one side. So we'll double those up, and we're going to measure over 7 3/4 and cut. And there we have that. So we can glue that one down there, and we can glue that one down right there. So we'll do that. I think I got that on fairly straight. And I'm just going to push back against that hinge there so I can get this flattened out. Then I'll pop it back to where it needs to be when I'm done. Lovely. So with this, I want to make sure that I get it even with where I placed it over here. That looks good. Now we're going to get for the inside of our big fold outs. So what we're going to do with this is a little bit different. We're going to measure over 7 3/4 and cut. And this is in your paper pack, by the way. What we're going to do now is just measure over 6 inch and cut that right in the middle. This is what we should have, and it's going to be short for covering, but that's okay. Where we're going to plant these is right towards the inside. We'll have this left over because we're going to put some yellow over there to blend it all together. So when you place this, just center that top and bottom, and you will have a spacing here and here of your white cardstock. Just make sure you have the same spacing before you hit that inner hinge. We're going to do that on both sides. These colors make me happy. They really do, because they're cheerful. So you have this in your reserves. We're going to turn it so the flowers are down in the corner. We're going to measure over 7 3/4 and cut. Now that we've done that, we're just going to hold it so the flowers are up here. We're going to measure over 1 1/4 inches and cut. We'll measure over again 1 1/4 and cut. One's going to glue down over here, and we'll leave ourselves a little border so it kind of ties in the yellow with this pretty color. And the other one we're going to glue down right over here. And I think how do I want to arrange this? Well, I'll just keep the flowers at the top and glue that down. So lining that up, I'm going to slightly overlap. It just ties in some of that more solid colored yellow over here, and it doesn't make it so boring. Because this is a large panel, and you can get couple photos depending on your size, maybe even more than that. If you have the smaller wallet size, you can get 4 on there. Let's grab this out of our reserves. It's our little cut aparts. And do you see the boots with the kitty? Well, and we're just going to separate this out. We're going to cut the boots out with the kitty. Again, just try to weave around it would be good. And I think this one's going to be sitting over here, which will be really cute. And, oh gosh, there's so much. I think we want to get after the other kitty with the boots. We're going to make this kind of one side with the boots and then the other. Because this is a mixture of dog and cat. Okay, you know what to do. We're going to fussy cut around these images, and I'll show you what mine looks like before I put it down to the white cardstock, and then we're going to cut out and around. We can make these little tuck areas. So I'm going to begin. Now I realize that part of our boot is cut off on this image. That's okay. You can kind of round it off a little. Nobody's going to know the better. So you just kind of round it off. So here is one of my ones. This is the one where I kind of had to round off the boot a little, so it looks good. We're going to do the same exact thing with the other one. So here are both my pieces now, and I got glue all over me. Now I'm going to glue them down to some white cardstock, and I'm going to cut out and around these little guys. I have both of mine cut out. So over here on the back side and down over, I'm going to glue. So just down one side and down across the bottom so that you can still tuck a photograph back behind. Just to kind of tuck the edge of a photograph. Let's see, I got this one. But anyway, you can see that I could still tuck a photograph back in there if I wanted to. We're going to do the same over here. Down the side, across the bottom. Oops. Perfect. So if you did flatten these out, just go ahead and maneuver these back to how they're supposed to be. But we are now moving on to getting the left and right top of our spine hinge on there. So we'll just flip this one over. We'll start here. In your paper pack, you will find this print. And this one's going to be a little bit different for us because I do want to get this. We're going to be cutting this out, but we need to get our base page. So grab your ruler. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna place your ruler down. This is a little bit different. And what you're gonna do is measure over about 7 1/4 inches. So we'll make that mark from here. We're then gonna turn our page and grab our ruler, and we're gonna measure down 7 3/4. And I'm gonna come up here and do 7 3/4, and I'm going to draw myself a line. So 7 3/4. I'll come over here to where my line is. Try to get this done. 7 3/4. So I'll just match up my lines here because we're going to be only cutting what we got here. And we'll draw it over. So it's very light. And then what we're going to do is that 7 1/4. I'm going to make several marks to make sure that this is straight. And then what I'll do is I'll line up my little 7 1/4. And then when I get it on my paper cutter, it'll make sure it's straight anyway. And then lightly draw. So all we are going to be cutting out is here and here. So don't cut this down and don't cut over here. So I'm going to grab my paper cutter and do the best I can. Let's put, whoops. I'm going to move this out of the way. So all we did was we measured down 7 3/4 and we made our line. And from here over, or from here over, we're 7 1/4. So just this square. And mine does not lift up like a lot of you have. So I'm going to have to be very careful. I'm going to have to go like this actually to get mine maneuvered right. So 7 1/4. There's my line. And I'll come down to where I think the other one is. So only like that. And then 7 3/4, right about there, and I'm going to come over to the side. Like I got that. Let's see, I did. So there is this. I'm going to grab my page on my folio, actually. So this is what you should have left over. And all we're going to do, and it's on the right side, is glue that down. So we'll do that. And this is going to be really nice looking, so I think at least. So I'll just center it right here. You're 7 3/4 tall. So that was kind of a different cut. And the only reason why is because I wanted to reserve that bottom part. Before we get into that, what we're going to do is you have one more pre-cut left. It's our top pocket. So your score line here, here, and across. Down in the corner, we are going to cut out that little square. And we're going to assemble our pocket and get our pocket down. Flip it over and we'll do our thing with folding in the sides and the bottom, using our tool to smooth it out. So down here in the corners, the bottom flap, we'll put a little glue, we'll fold in the sides and pull it up. All we're going to do now is we're going to apply our glue. And I need to burnish mine down just a little bit more. And again, I'm going to flatten this. I'm going to push that over to the side, flatten it out for me. But I'm just going to line this up with my decorative paper. There we go. I think that's good. And I'm going to burnish that. Okay. We're going to find our paper for this. In your paper pack, you will have this print. We're going to turn it on the sideways. We're going to measure over 3 3/8 and cut. Once you have that, we're going to measure over 7 1/8 and cut. Once you have that cut, we're going to apply glue, and we're going to glue it down to our pocket. That should give you a little bit of a white border, just a hair. You can see your pocket on the sides, but we're going to bring it down to the bottom of our pocket so it gives us that white lip. And we're going to glue that down. Any glue. We are ready for this. Now, one thing I do want us to do is get our paper cutter out. And I'm going to set this off to the side. Right above the flowers, we're just going to cut that in a straight. That way we have a nice straight cut, and this is great for a picture mat or somewhere else in our folio. So that's all I cut off. We'll put that in reserves. Next, what we're going to do is we are going to come to the right of this large flower, and we're going to cut that. We'll put that in reserves. So now what we're going to do is we are going to cut out and around this image. Now I'll cut mine first to show you where I actually made some cuts. And then what we'll do is we're going to mount this onto white cardstock. So let me start and I will show you when I'm done. I have mine cut out just like this. So if you want to pause the video to get yours like this, but you are going to end up lopping off, cutting off some of this. And how you'll know where to cut it is once you lay this down, you will bring this all the way over until it hits over here. Without going over, you can go on to the white over there, but you will see right over here where the edge of your page is, of your pocket and your page. So I'm just going to cut this little bit off so it matches up. Bring this over, and I think I need to take off just a little bit more. There we go. Straighten that up a bit. And then she'll fit nicely. And if you have just a hair coming over the edge, it isn't going to hurt anything. But that's the way it's going to look. And this part will not be glued down, just the sides to keep it down, but you'll still be able to have a functional pocket. But we do need to stiffen this up just a little bit. And that's why we're going to glue this down to white cardstock, and we're going to cut out and around, leaving a white border. So here is mine, and we will just pull this up. So the first pieces I want to glue down is right over here. To get that down. And then I know I'm going to want to get down over here. And I may want to leave this as a little tuck area too. So I'm not going to get up behind him, but I'm just going to get this over where I need it. So let's check this out. Here's a piece right here. This has a little bit of color on it, but you can still get that in and out of the pocket. And you can also use that as a tuck. Boy, that'd be cute to highlight a photo right there. So right there. That's what we got. All right, so when we are done with this whole thing, this one actually sits on top of it. So we can just go like that. Let's get our paper for here so we can finish up this page. Move on. In your paper pack, you will find this print. Very pretty. We're going to turn it this way. We're going to measure over 7 3/4 and cut. Now we're going to do a couple different cuts on this, which will leave us some nice solid, more solid colors in case we want to, a strip, in case we want to use as tags or whatever. But our first cut now is going to be measuring over 2 1/8 and cut. After making that cut, this is what you should have. We're going to measure over 7 1/8 and cut. We're going to apply glue, and we're going to center that there, and we're going to glue that down. And we'll wipe up any glue that seems to seep out on us. If you've got a little extra glue under there on the edges, like I did. Push that back. Panel 1 is complete. I think it came out rather cute. Just enough color and print. Very cute. We are now on to panel 2. We're on panel 2 and we have some pre-cuts here, so let's go over them. We had 2 pieces that were 5 by 8. One we labeled left spine hinge and one we labeled right spine hinge. On both of them, what we did was we laid this on our scoring board, so we were 5 inches across. We scored at a 1/2 inch and 1 inch on both of these. We had one piece that was 7 3/4 by 7 3/4. We called it a top flip. What we did was we just laid this on our scoring board. We were 7 3/4 across. We scored at a 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch. And that's it. We next had a 6 by 7 3/4. We called it a bottom flip. We laid this on our scoring board, so we were 6 inches across. We scored at a 1/2 inch and 3/4. Next, we had a 5 by 8 1/2, and we called this the flip top pocket. What we did was we laid this so we were 5 inches across, and we scored at a 1/2 inch. We turned it, so now we are 8 1/2 inches across. We scored it at a 1/2 inch, and we scored it at 8 inches. Next, we had a 3.5 by 6 inch. We called it the bottom flip side pocket. We laid this on our scoring board, so we were 3.5 inches across. We scored it at a 1/2 inch. We then turned it, so now we are 6 inches across. We scored at a 1/2 inch and 5.5 inches. We had our last two pre-cuts were 4.5 by 6.25, and we called these inner flips. On each one, we did the same. We laid it, so we were 6.25 across. We scored at a 1/2 inch and 5/8 inch on both of these. Let's begin assembling. We're going to need our folio. And the two pieces that we want to start with is the 5 by 8 right spine hinge and left spine hinge. And we're going to start by folding on those score lines. This is a fun little design. I like this. Okay, we're going to start with the left spine hinge. Our hinge is going to be off to the left. Okay, we're on panel 2, P2. And over here, you notice we have that inside spine. One of the score lines are here, and one of the score lines are here. Ignore your seam line. Don't get confused on that. What we're going to do is we're going to apply glue. We're going to fold it back, kind of like what we did over there. And we are going to place this directly down. And I had placed a mark so you can see where that spine hinge is. But all we're going to do is the same thing. We're going to line it up top and bottom. We're going to move over about a 1/16 of an inch from that score line. And we're going to place it. So let's get this on there. Oops. So again, we're just to the right of that score line. We'll come in about 1/16 inch away. We'll burnish that. We're going to be doing the same thing. And here is our inside spine on this side. And I'm going to make a line with mine. You don't have to. I'm just doing this for demonstration. So there are my two score lines. On this one, when we place the right spine hinge, it's going to place just to the left of this inner score line, and we'll stay about a 1/16 inch away. Same thing we just did, but on the other side. I'm going to bring this down a little closer so my head don't get in the video. So I'll match that up with the bottom of my piece. So we have those. We're just going to open those up. We're going to grab our 6 by 7 3/4 bottom flip. And we're going to fold on those score lines. And we're going to attach it. Alright, so our little hinge is at the bottom. If we were to put glue and fold that back, bring it down to the bottom of our piece, you will be able to fit inside those inner score lines of your flips. So we're going to do that. You have just enough room. If you placed it a 1/16 inch away, you will fit. If by chance you got yours maybe more moved over, and when you're looking it's right on your little thing here, you're going to have to trim off about a 1/16 off your side to fit if you made that error. But you should fit just right in between there. Okay, we will open that up. Now we have our 7 3/4, 7 3/4 top flip. And we're going to fold on those score lines, and we are going to attach this. It may be helpful if you just take your bottom flip and flatten it down when we do this. This one, the flip is up here. We're going to line it up with the top, and we'll line it up with the sides of this bottom one, just to make sure we got it on straight. And I'm going to have to hold this up so I don't get my head in the video, so I don't go over. We're going to open this all up, and we're going to find our paper for the inside here. In your paper pack, you will find this print. It looks like the watercolors. First thing we're going to do is we're going to measure over 7 3/4 and cut. That's what you should have. And we're going to measure over again 7 3/4 and cut. Now before we do anything here, because we have to attach some things to this, is we're going to lay this down. And you should be able to fit in between those inner score lines there. If you were where you had shifted these over more, like I was talking about, if this didn't fit and you had to shave just a little off, you're going to want to shave a little bit off here so that you can clear. If you did it correctly, you should just be able to fit in between those score lines on the side. I'm going to move that up out of the way. We're going to grab our inner flips, and we'll fold on those score lines. Okay. We're going to be looking, when this is in our book, the lines are going to be going this way on the print. We're going to have a top flip here, and we're going to have a flip that comes like this. So let's attach this. Here is one of the hinges. They're up at the top. On the top score line, you're going to pinch and fold on that, so you'll still be able to see the other one. We're going to place that on top, and all I've done is come over to the side. Don't go past that. We'll flip it over once you have that behind, and we will glue this down. Okay. Now on the second one, we're going to have the hinge at the bottom. So on the bottom score line, you will pinch, and you'll still be able to see your other score line. All we're going to do is bring that right on over here without going past. We'll hook it on, and we will glue this flap down. So that's what you should have. We'll push back against those in just a moment. But we're going to glue this down now to our page. And then we'll just work directly in our book. Again, make sure that you are not on those score lines. You should just fit inside them. And of course, we're going to make sure we're straight here. Now once you have that down, we can then push back on these other score lines and push it up. There we go. All right, let's get our paper for this. In your paper pack, you should have this piece. We're going to turn it sideways. We're going to measure over 5 1/4 and cut. This is what you should have. We're going to measure over 4 1/4 and cut. We'll measure over again 4 1/4 and cut. These two pieces I would like to lay on the outside. So we are going to glue these pieces down. I'm going to flatten this out while I do this, and I will try to center this in here as best I can. Once you have those down, flip it, and we will get for in here. In your reserves, you should have this piece. It is 12 inches long by 4 1/4. It's perfect. All we're going to do, we're going to measure over 5 1/4 and cut. We'll measure over again 5 1/4 and cut. These two pieces are going to go on the inside of our flips. We'll glue one here and we'll glue one here. Let's flip those in. And we're going to work on getting our paper for down here. In your paper pack, you will have this print with a little mouse in here and the yarn balls. We're going to turn it sideways. We're going to measure over 6 5/8 and cut. We're going to measure over 7 1/2 inches and cut. Right up here, if you were to place this and center it, it will fit. Let's glue it down. And then we're going to assemble our pocket for over here. Grab your 5 by 8 1/2 flip top pocket. And we're going to grab our scissors, and down in the corner where it makes that square, we're going to cut those out. And then we're going to fold on our score lines. Okay, with the sides folded in, we'll have the bottom flap down here, and we will just dab some glue in the corner like we've done before. Pull up the bottom onto those sides, and we will burnish. We're going to apply glue, and we're going to glue this pocket down. The opening on the pocket is right here, and we're just going to bring it down and center it. If it's if it's not quite as wide as your decorated paper, that's fine. Mine seems to be. And we'll bring it to the bottom of our decorated paper, and we'll burnish that down. So we have a nice little pocket there. In your reserves, you will have this print. It is 7 3/4 by about 4 1/4. Looking at it like this, we're just going to measure over 7 1/2 and cut. We're going to apply glue, and we are going to place that over our pocket, leaving us a white little lip. And you might have a little bit of a white at the bottom of your pocket if you'd like to kind of center it in between there. In your reserves, you will find this print, and we're going to cut a couple pieces off here. You see the puppy in the oh my gosh, the pail. We're going to get that off. And let's see what else I would like to get after. Down here, there is a little teacup. And right here, you will see there's a pink bow. So what we're going to do is first just fussy cut around these pieces. I'm going to move my folio out of the way. But we're going to cut around these pieces, and I will show you what mine looks like before I back it. I have all 3 of my pieces. Now the first thing I would like you to do is to take the bow. We're not going to back the bow, but we're just going to glue that right on down to the pail. There we go. Now with scratch paper, what we're going to do is we're going to glue down the little teacup and this, and we're going to fussy cut around, leaving a white border. And I will bring this up a little more so you can see what I did here. Whoops. I have my pieces cut out, and they are backed. I think that we're just going to glue this right on down to here with the little teacup. Just make sure the edges of your piece here does not go over the side. I thought that'd be cute, just to have something right there and put something else there. Let's get down here. You should have this piece left. It's the other side to right up here, what we used. We're going to measure over 7.5 and cut. After making that cut, let's turn it sideways, measure over 5 inches, and cut. And before we apply glue, we're going to verify it fits in there away from that score line. And we have a nice border. Let's glue that down. Let's grab our 3.5 by 6 inch bottom flip side pocket. And down in the corners where we see those squares, we're just going to clip out. And let's assemble this pocket. Okay, we are going to apply glue around that. Our opening is going to be here, but we're just going to place it right on top of that decorated paper. In your reserves, you should have this piece. It is about 2 3/4 wide, and it is 7 3/4 this way. We're going to turn it, we're going to measure over 5 inches and cut. This piece should fit right on in here, giving us a white lip. Let's glue it down now. On our little cut apart pieces, we're going to get after the cute little kitten and this. And we are going to cut around, fussy cut around each one. And then we're going to mount it onto white cardstock, and we will cut around that. And as soon as I get that done, I will show you what mine looked like. I have both of mine cut out, and they're back to white cardstock. Now we're going to glue Mr. Kitty right to the side of our pail, like this. And we can make him like a little bit of a tuck. So let's flip it over. Here's his tail. We want to make sure his tail gets glued down. And we will make sure that the side over here. So the tail along and a little bit up this way. And we will place it. Definitely get the tail so he doesn't snag on anything. Well, that is absolutely cute. That looks adorable. Let's get into here. In your paper pack, you will have this print. Let's turn it sideways. We're going to measure over 7 3/4 and cut. Once you've done that, measure over 3 3/4 and cut. Measure over again 3 3/4 and cut. Once you've done that, let's apply glue and be mindful of that score line there. And we're going to glue that down. Okay. And we will do it over here too. So this one is hard to get to burnish down because of this. So I'm just going to push this all the way over and burnish from this side, and then quickly pick it up to get any glue that might have seeped out. Perfect. All right, we're going to work on this top flip, and all you're going to do is cut out, but you're going to use your ruler. So from the side of this, you will measure over 7.5 inches and make your pencil line. From the top down, you're going to go 6 3/4 and make a pencil line. Then what you're going to do is you're just going to cut this and this over so you have this. And we'll put that in our reserves. Once you have that, glue it down. It's that simple. In your reserves, you will have this piece. It is 7 3/4 this way, and it is 5 1/2 this way. So look at it like this with the flowers over here. Measure over 7 1/2 inches and cut. Once you've made that cut, we'll look at it like this. Flowers down here, measure over 5 inches and cut. Flip that up, and we will glue that down. Wipe up any glue. Okay, we're going to pull these in, and we're going to get our paper for right here. In your reserves, you will have this print. We're going to turn it sideways, measure over 7 3/4 and cut. Once you've done that, measure over 3 3/4 and cut. Measure over again 3 3/4 and cut. We're going to apply glue, and we're going to glue this one down here and this one down here. Let's set this off to the side, and right on here, what we're going to do is first we're going to leave ourselves some nice cuts for picture mats. We're first going to cut it right above this. We'll put that in our reserves. And then just to the right of that, we will put that in our reserves. All we have to do now is we're going to fussy cut this whole image out, and I will show you mine as soon as I am done. Now, when you're cutting this out, you can leave some of the black and then showing, and then when you glue it down to white, it will stick out a little bit more against the prints that we have down on that panel. So once you have fussy cut this out, and I wanted to show you the black border around there, I want you to cut it in half like this before gluing it down to your white cardstock. And I have my reasons for that, and I'll explain it in just a bit as soon as we get this all glued down. Okay, I have mine cut out. And the reason why we cut it down the middle is we do not want to snag on any of this. Let's start with this one, and we are going to completely glue these down. Completely. You have a space here for a smaller photo, but I just don't want this to get hung up on our fussy cutting from over here. But I like this. This is just cute. Just make sure your edges are down and clean up any glue. Make sure these are down really good over here so they do not snag on your other part of your other panels. Oh, that is so stinking cute. That is so cute. All right, open it up. We're going to finish up right here. In your reserves, you will have this piece. We're going to chop off just to the right of that. So this is a good piece to save. Sorry about the dogs. We are going to cut out and around this image. We're going to glue it down to white cardstock, cut out and around, because I think he would look absolutely adorable sitting right there. So let's do that, and I will show you mine in just a moment, how I cut it. Before I lay it down to white cardstock, I wanted to show you how I cut this. Anyway, now let's glue it down and cut out and around, leaving a white border. I have mine against the white cardstock, and we are just going to glue this down right here along the bottom so it can be a tuck here. Let's see how this works. I'm going to stick something back behind for sure. Get it on there. I probably missed it, and I did. That is a cute finishing. All right, we are done with panel 2. Let's move on to panel 3 and then our inside spines. In your reserves, you will have this print. Turn it upside down, measure over 7 3/4 and cut. Now measure over 3 3/4 and cut. Once you have it, apply glue, and here's our spine, our inside spine, and there's the crease. It'll fit right on over here. And then we're going to burnish it down. Be careful of your magnets, not to scuff it. Let's get our 2 pieces for the inside spine. In your reserves, you will have this piece. It's 12 inches long. Measure over 7 3/4 and cut. Once you have that, we're going to measure over 7/8 and cut. We'll measure over again 7/8 and cut. I've got my 2 pieces. I'm going to glue one down here in between those score lines and one right on over here. And we'll burnish. We have this magnet to contend with. You can leave it like that, or you can find something on the cut apart to fit right on over it. And I see what I want to get after, and it's this piece. And I'm not going to back this to any cardstock. I'm just going to cut out and around this and glue it over the magnet. And I'll show you mine as soon as I am done. Here's my piece, and I'm going to make sure I get glue all over. And the big part goes over the magnet, and I'm just going to press until it's all nice and around it. Down at the bottom, you're going to see a rabbit, and he is partially cut off on the bottom, and that's fine. I'm going to cut out and around him too. He's going to go right here. And I should not be able to see him from the other side, and I can't, but it just fills in the space a little over there. Just going to kind of overlap it a little. And that looks more finished to me. Okay. Now, stickles. One thing that you can do with stickles, and I'm going to do it, is I'm going to kind of put some stickles around here and there on my cover. Maybe outline the dog's ears around him a little. And you don't need a whole lot. So as you can see, I kind of added a little. I don't know if you can tell in this light, but I'm going to do that with these guys as well. If you'd like to do it inside your album, do so. Just remember that you're going to need to have each page will need to completely dry before you can shut your book. Otherwise, you're going to have a mess. So that is another way to dress up your album with maybe a little stickles. Happy crafting, everyone. I will see you on my next tutorial.